want to give some flowers to coaches in college football right now that don't get the respect they deserve from fans and the national media. Kalen DeBoer is the first one up, bro. He is, in my opinion, the undisputed second best head coach in college football. Ain't no Ryan Day, Brian Kelly, or whoever else is better than this dude. This dude is a head coach prodigy, man. In 2 seasons at Washington, he revived that program after Jimmy Lake damn near ran that thing into the ground, taking over for Chris Peterson. Do y'all remember how bad the Jimmy Lake era at Washington was? This dude was getting into it on the sidelines with his own players, man, putting hands on his own players. Kalen DeBoer came in, took them to 10-plus wins, a bowl game, and then year 2, a national championship appearance. When's the last time Washington played in a national championship? It's been a very long time. Kalen DeBoer was the first coach in Washington program history to win 11 games or more in consecutive seasons, and he was 10-1 against ranked teams. Hell, we get on Ryan Day for not being able to beat Michigan, but yet Kalen DeBoer ran his rivals. Oregon was expected to beat Washington both the 2 times they played last year. And we all got a lot of admiration for Dan Lanning. He's one of the best ascending coaches in the sport. But Kalen DeBoer coached circles around that dude, man. He is 104-12 in his 9 years as a head coach. He was 12-6 the 2 years he was at Fresno State. And he went 67-3 as alma mater coaching NAIA ball. He led his alma mater to 3 NAIA championships, and he had a 49-1 conference record during that span. You're winning at the NAIA level. You're winning at Washington, and only to span the 2 years, you take that team from nearly being ran to the dirt to now a relevant program with the 25-3 record. This dude is the second best head coach in college football, and it really surprises me anytime I see top 10 head coaching rankings and Kalen DeBoer is not at number 2. Like, I saw somebody for On3 make a ranking that had freaking Steve Sarkisian over Kalen DeBoer. Like, are you kidding me? You got Steve Sarkisian at number 2 over Kalen DeBoer when Kalen DeBoer has ran this fool twice? Beat him in the Alamo Bowl and beat him once again in the college football playoffs, bro. The disrespect for Kalen DeBoer has to stop. And I see some of these SEC fanboys out there when Kalen DeBoer first got hired by Bama saying, man, this dude ain't going to work. You got a dude who ain't from the South replacing Nick Saban. How is this going to work? Urban Meyer wasn't from the South. And you saw how that worked. You saw how he was running the SEC at Florida for a span. You know, like, not everybody has to be from the South to succeed. I get that college football is rooted in culture. But when you got a guy that's the kind of stud coach that Kalen DeBoer is, I mean, there are players that played for his NAIA program when he was coaching there that will literally come on and tell you that he was too good of a coach for us. He's a prodigy. There wasn't a better replacement for Nick Saban than this dude. Alabama fans are blessed, and I believe that he's going to have a way better shot at winning a national championship in the next 5 years than Brian Kelly and Steve Sarkisian. Mark Stoops, initially, before Texas A&M decided to hire Mike Elko, it was reported that Mark Stoops was going to be the dude replacing Jimbo Fisher down in College Station, and I was really surprised at the amount of backlash that news received. And then ultimately, you know, it came out that it wasn't really true, and I guess Mark Stoops ended up going back to Kentucky, and Kentucky ended up upping his pay. But I felt that backlash was really unnecessary because Mark Stoops, in terms of somebody who's able to do more with less, it doesn't get better than this dude. Kentucky, before Mark Stoops became their head coach, you didn't even pay attention to football. They were all basketball. They were a basketball school. Mark Stoops gets into that thing, and he becomes Kentucky's all-time winningest coach, and currently the SEC's longer tenured coach at 12 years. Since 2018, he's had 2 10-win seasons, and he has a 4-2 record in bowl games. He is the staple and the model of consistency, despite having limited resources at a place that's tough to recruit at, and college football's toughest conference. Like, will Kentucky ever make it to a college football playoffs? They may have a year where, they may pop off. Because something else that doesn't get talked about enough with Mark Stoops is that he's one of the best coaches in America when it comes to developing talent. A lot of the guys that he's put in the NFL, they weren't 4-star guys. They were like 2- and 3-star guys. And now all of a sudden, recently, Kentucky has started to get better blue chip talent. But he does a really good job at developing his recruits. Now, imagine if he gets better resources. Hell, if you put him at LSU, I think LSU has a better chance winning a national championship with Mark Stoops than they do Brian Kelly. There isn't a single coach that gets disrespected as much as what Mark Stoops does, despite how much he has done for Kentucky football. This dude is Kentucky football. And speaking of, Mark Stoops being the face of Kentucky football, when you think of Oklahoma State, Mike Gundy has to be the face that comes to mind. He has to be one of the few coaches in college football that when you bring up their university, he's synonymous with their school. When you thought of Alabama, you think Nick Saban. When you think Oklahoma State, you think Mike Gundy. He's the face of that university. And he's tied with Kyle Whittingham as the second longest tenured coach in college football behind old man Grandpa Kirk Ferentz down there in Iowa. He's 166-79 entering his 20th season with that program. Since 2010, he's had 8, 10 or more win seasons. He's a 3-time Big 12 Coach of the Year. He's led Oklahoma State to a Big 12 title reign in 2011, and they should have been in the BCS National Championship that year, but they got robbed due to the dumb computer models that we have. Imagine if we had the college football playoffs back in 2011 and Oklahoma State got into that thing. He's also 2-3 in New Year's Six bowl games. He has a 12-6 bowl record overall. Like, I get that Oklahoma State is his alma mater, but if I'm Florida and it doesn't work out with Billy Napier, I'm dishing out whatever it takes to get Mike Gundy to come to Florida. And money talks. If you're offering Mike Gundy $12.5, $13 million a year, there's no way he passes up on that opportunity. Consistency has always been there for Oklahoma State. And I know things looked a little bit rocky at times. I thought that it was a wrap for him when he lost to South Alabama last year. But surprisingly, he was able to turn that thing around. And with how great of a culture and infrastructure that he's built down there in Stillwater, with all of the multiple All-Americans that he's produced, Des Bryant, Justin Blackman, this dude is a stud. He's one of the best coaches in the sport. If I was to give you guys my top 10 head coaching rankings right now, he'll definitely be somewhere in the top 10. And I eventually plan on releasing those. But nobody has done more with less than Mike Gundy. You want some more accolades for this dude? He has led Oklahoma State to 16 straight bowl appearances, one of the longest active bowl streaks in the nation. Do I need to say more? He may be the most underrated coach in college football. He takes the title away from Kyle Whittingham now. You see, Kyle Whittingham isn't underrated anymore. Everybody knows how good of a coach Kyle Whittingham is. But Mike Gundy, I don't think he gets enough respect for what he's done in Oklahoma State. It's like you got to bring up Mike Gundy for people to know, oh, snap, like, okay, that dude is good. Like, if you were to ask one of your homies that's a college football fan to name you an underrated head coach in college football, I doubt many of them are going to mention Mike Gundy to be the first person to come in their head, because he'll be the first person to come in minds other than Kalen DeBoer. What about Chris Kleiman at Kansas State, though? He has the second most wins in program history with 39. He has a 39-24 overall record there. He has won 8 or more games, 4 out of his last 5 seasons down there. He led Kansas State to a Big 12 championship win when they upset TCU in 2022. And he was 69-6 as the head coach for North Dakota State, leading them to 4 FCS national championship wins in the time that he was there from 2014 to 2018. And a lot of people think North Dakota State as an FCS powerhouse. Yeah, he was the head coach who was responsible for that. I didn't even know that he was the dude winning all those national championships down there until I ended up researching this video. This dude is an absolute stud, and it's only a matter of time before he ends up getting one of these big-time jobs at one of these blue blood programs. Like, once again, If Florida ends up cutting ties with Billy Napier, Chris Kleiman definitely needs to be the first dude on the phone that they call. You winning 4 FCS titles at North Dakota State? Like, ever since this dude left, South Dakota State has overtaken North Dakota State as the powerhouse in the FCS. Chris Kleiman is a credible head coach. He's won 75% of his games, which is third among active FBS coaches, only behind Kirk Cinetti, who was coaching at James Madison, who's now at Indiana, and Dabo Swinney with Clemson. And we can't end off this list without talking about the upset master that is Jeff Brom. And he's not called the upset master for no reason. At Purdue, he had 3 wins against top 3 teams. Ohio State in 2018 when they had Dwayne Haskins, which kept them from making it to the playoffs. Iowa and Michigan State, both in 2021. And even last year at Louisville, they upset Notre Dame. And I was warning people, don't sleep on Louisville if you're Notre Dame fans. You're going up against the upset master. This is what this dude is known for. He pulled off the upset once again. And he led Louisville to their first ACC championship appearance in program history since 2013, back when they had Teddy Bridgewater and Charlie Strong there. And it's the first 10-win season that they had since that span, since that year. So for Louisville, being able to make their first ACC championship game in the history of their program under Jeff Brom, and being able to get their first 10-win season in over a decade is really impressive for Jeff Brom to do in only his first season. And even at Purdue, you know, this dude was not only a really good recruiter, but he was always a really good game day coach. Always had his team prepared for the big games. You know, they made it to a couple of Big Ten championships, and although they didn't win any of them, you know, like, just the fact that he was able to turn Purdue around and to make them a respectable program, because you see what they're doing now. You know, they had a down year last season in 2020 and 2023 with that new head coach they brought in, who was the DC for Illinois. So Jeff Brom is an incredible head coach, and he's one of the best coaches in college football when it comes to having his team ready for the big games and the biggest stages. And he has a 76-48 record overall in his decade being the head coach. So these are my list of head coaches that don't get the respect they deserve from college football fans and pundits of the media. And I just wanted to take time to dedicate a segment to give these guys the flowers that they deserve.